If I find a tomato that's not red and it's a bit squishy and, you know, has some bruises on it, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a bad tomato I bought. I'm never buying tomatoes again. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new video. I wanted to discuss something, and I was inspired to do this video by Jessie Style. Jessie Style is a YouTuber from Australia, from Melbourne, and she is a luxury bag fanatic. She has a beautiful collection. It's always displayed in her videos, and she's got a love for Hermes and for Chanel and then other bag brands as well. She also has experience working in the luxury industry, so she does have a lot of knowledge, and I can see that, you know, from her perspective, she can see it on both the consumer and the retailer side because of her experience, and also for her own love of acquiring luxury handbags. So her topic was, how picky is too picky? Are we being too picky, and are we being too picky when it comes to quality and craftsmanship that we lose sight of the whole luxury experience? I've alluded to this before in one of my videos, that questioning how picky is too picky. I would say I am picky. I do like to look at details of all the items that I purchase from many years, and it doesn't even have to be luxury. I want to make sure that what I'm buying is satisfying or satisfies me, and is something that I can accept. There are definitely flaws that I will overlook, that I won't necessarily consider flaws. Some people may consider other things flaws, or some people might think that what I consider to be a flaw is not a flaw, and they're okay with it. This is in great timing, because I did do a video recently updating you guys on the Chanel 22, because some of you already know that I purchased this bag. I think one of the few unboxings, or one of the few first unboxings of the 22 bag. I know a lot of people were talking about it, but nobody actually had a video out there unboxing it. So a lot of you knew that I have this bag already. And some of you saw videos on YouTube where there were reports of cracking and peeling, and you know, I was also sent those photos as well, and you know, it is definitely appalling that that is happening to a new bag. Now, because a lot of you asked for that update, you know, DMing me like saying, how is yours holding up, I did a video where I updated you guys on what I found in terms of wear or any defect. So that, if you want to watch that video, I've put that out there, and you know, it just shows you like it's not too bad, but on mine, of course. But some people may not accept that. Some people you know, will accept that, just depending on what can be done about it. I've never really had quality issues. I know this has been a long-standing topic in the luxury community about quality, and really criticizing brands like Chanel and Louis Vuitton about quality, because there have been issues that were reported by clients, and you know, some brands like Louis Vuitton did something about glazing issues on the pochette métisse for certain batches, and there were these issues, and they took care of that. They recalled all those bags and replaced them, and that was like a huge thing, like that was on YouTube. And you know, I'm glad that people got a replacement bag or store credit or whatever the case was, but in some cases these items can't be replaced unless it's like a collective action and a lot of people have issues, and you know, then the brand decides, okay, we need to recall all of these and do something about it. So you need to have enough damage or enough defects for that to happen, I guess. Otherwise, if it's a handful, they're probably not going to do anything about it. But the first time I ever had an issue, well, let's pedal back. Quality and issues with quality really became apparent when there were aggressive price increases, and people really started to critique these brands because they do not measure up to the supreme quality of brands like Hermes, which, you know, really when you think of Hermes, you think of really superb quality and craftsmanship. And but all luxury brands are luxury, and you expect them to have high quality. But how we assess that quality can vary from person to person. Again, everybody has their preferences, and everybody has a certain purpose in mind, and everybody will buy something once they are personally satisfied with it, regardless of quality issues, regardless of alignment, regardless of stitches. And it also depends on what you know. For instance, if you go to a grocery store and you are wanting to shop for produce to make a salad, okay? I don't know about you, but when I make a salad and I want to put tomatoes in there, I want those tomatoes to be firm. I don't want no squishy tomatoes when I cut them. Like, I want them to be nice and firm, but I want them to be ripe. I want them to be nice and red, okay? So when I go to buy tomatoes and I have the huge, I don't know what they call it, section or bin that have tomatoes in them, I'm going to look for the tomatoes within that bin that are firm, that are ripe, that are red, okay? I'm going to hand select those tomatoes. That doesn't mean that if I find a soggy tomato or a squishy tomato that's yellow and bruised, that the whole bin, we write it off. That doesn't mean anything. And it doesn't mean that I won't buy tomatoes again. If I find a tomato that's not red and it's a bit squishy and, has some bruises on it, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a bad tomato I bought. I'm never buying tomatoes again. That doesn't make any sense. Within the tomatoes, I'll find some good ones. And that's what I think when it comes to luxury shopping, okay? You're going to buy what you like, and you're going to buy something when you are personally satisfied with it. The only times I've ever actually come across a quality issue was when I bought something without seeing it in person. So I have enough handbags and luxury pieces for me to assess and know what I like. For instance, if you're looking at like a black classic flap, okay? You're gonna have differences and variations between the two, even if it's the exact same style. Going back to my tomato analogy, tomatoes are a product of nature. One tomato will not be exactly the same as the other tomato, even if they're the same size and weight and shape. They're not going to have the exact makeup. They're not going to have the exact, genetics, right? Like if you want to go to plant genetics, right? There's going to be variations, right? So same thing with leathers. We forget that leathers are not man-made. These are natural materials, just like stone is. If you're getting granite for your countertops, if you're getting wood for your floors or your cabinets, every piece is going to be different from the next because these are natural materials. They're not man-made. They're not going to be exact copies of each other. They're not engineered to be exact copies of each other. So what we sometimes forget is to make these leather goods, leather has to be sourced, and these hides have to be harvested from animals, which are different from each other. Yes, you could have clones. I don't know how it works, but most of them, there's gonna be variation. There's also gonna be variation in their genetics and how they've been raised. Did they have time? Did they have good nutrition? Did they have space to graze? Did they hit each other? Did they have bruises, right? Like this is what determines quality of hides or thickness of hides, right? What part of the animal was the leather taken from? I understood now that sometimes leather on one part of the animal is thicker and some parts are thinner and more stretchy. So there's going to be variation. And let's say, years ago, I remember looking for a classic flap, and I asked, and they actually had 3 that I could choose from. So 3 black jumbo classic flaps that I could choose from, all in caviar leather with gold hardware. And even between the 3, there was variations. One jumbo classic flap in caviar was more black and shinier than the other. Why was that the case? Because that hide must have been somewhat different. So it took the stain differently than the other. One looked more matte and more dry. One felt more stiff, one felt more soft. So now who chooses what? It depends on what you prefer, right? What seems more attractive and eye-catching to you? That's the one that you're going to buy. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being picky or you're, it means that you're buying to what satisfies you, is what I'm trying to say. Now, if there is, say, a quality issue, or any issue whatsoever, the goal of this channel is to share my experiences with luxury items. And some of you find that helpful because it helps you make an informed decision. When you do reviews or when you do first impressions from unboxings, you share that. Now, what I buy or what I bring home is something that I think at the time is amazing and I love it. And for the most part, everything that I've bought, I've never really had issues with at all. The only time I've had an issue was when I purchased a trendy CC in black, and I have a video on this. And I did that during lockdown when stores were closed. So I bought it through pictures. And I expected, hey, I've seen this bag before, I know I like it. But when it came to me, I didn't expect that it would be wonky. There was something really off with the bag that I just didn't sit well with me. So it actually was, there was something off with it for sure, and they refunded my money because I didn't see the bag in person. And then I was able to get another one. End of story. And I was happy, right? Now, when it comes to the 22, again, I'm happy with that bag. I bought it because I love it. I love the color. And I'm not necessarily going off to return it. I'm keeping it because I love it. But the thing is the wear is so minor on mine. If something can be done about it, which I'm still waiting to hear back, right, to see what's going on. But I mean, it's not something I was really looking for. I wasn't really looking to find flaws on something like this. So I guess that's a bit of a background, but I think it leads to an important discussion about how picky are we getting? And this whole issue of quality as a topic has been emerging over the last couple of years. But what about 20 years ago when social media around luxury didn't exist? Instagram didn't. I don't think it existed 20 years ago. No, I don't think so. But basically all the posts that we have about luxury didn't exist. And you only came to know about luxury pieces through articles and media advertisements in print magazines, Vogue magazine or any other fashion magazine. I never really bought fashion magazines when I was younger. You only saw those when you were waiting at the doctor's office, really. And you'll look at that, picture months after, or years even after they debuted, right? Now we get information a lot faster. And information is shared because we're informing each other. But perhaps these little crooked flaps or all these missing stitches, I don't know. Maybe these existed before and nobody caught them or nobody knew to look for them. There definitely has been a change in quality for sure over the last couple of years because there's more demand for these products. There's definitely overproduction or accelerated production rather. Which demands for more raw materials like leather, right? You can't expect you're going to get grade A leather all the time. There's only so much to go around. And then production, there's got to be cuts to quality controls in production because it's a numbers game. It's profit, right? But does that mean that you'll stop buying? Well, I think for me to stop buying personally, it would mean that I'm really turned off by the brand. Not from a one-off experience. So is ignorance really bliss, right? The constant videos or constantly people commenting about quality and how it's not what it used to be. It makes consumers feel a little bit insecure when they're buying some of these things because they want the item, right? They love the brand, they want a piece of the fashion house, but it's also a lot of money to spend and they want to make sure that they're buying the best of what's available. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. The thing is that it can be a slippery slope and perhaps, it's created a monster because I sometimes do get messages of people sending me pictures of items that they bought, and they're like, or rather, not even me actually, I think even before I even started YouTube, people would post in like Facebook groups. Like there are several Facebook groups that people are part of, where they, you know, either buy and sell luxury or they talk about luxury. And I remember people would post like photos with like measurements and like highlighting spots, and you know, and I'm not saying that those are not valid concerns. Sometimes it's concerning with some of the things that you see, but sometimes there's really nothing that I see that is wrong with the item. But that doesn't mean that that person is wrong for finding that there's something that they don't like about the bag. What I always say is that if there is something that makes you doubt the purchase, or there's something that, you know, doesn't sit well with you and bothers you, then you shouldn't buy it. You know, you shouldn't keep the item. If you can still return it, and wait for something that you actually like and are satisfied and that makes you really happy. You know, don't let looking at minuscule things, because again, no bag is going to be absolutely perfect. It's, you know, it's leather. First of all, it's a natural material, and then, you know, some elements can be handmade. They're not right. Some are entirely handmade, which is fine, but you know, you have to accept that there's going to be variations from person to person and how they make these things, and sometimes some things you can't control, right? You can't control the way a chain sits, you can't control basically a lot of things, right? So you can't control certain things about the nuances of this piece because it's going to be unique, but that doesn't mean that you should settle for crap, right? If there is something that you don't like, then don't buy it. And if you end up finding something wrong with the piece after you buy it, then raise that concern if that makes you feel good. So these videos, you know, that people make, and I've made like 2, okay? That doesn't mean or discourage that, you know, the whole brand is, that doesn't mean that for these reasons you shouldn't buy this piece, right? It's just alerting you to some things that, you know, you might want to consider when you buy something. So, you know, there have been some minor issues that I've had with bags. For instance, when I bought the Jumbo Classic Flap, one of my earlier purchases for luxury, and I was like so scared to use it. I don't know why. I guess because it was kind of stiff and like it didn't really fit with my, I didn't really grow with the bag at that point. I wanted it, but it didn't fit into my lifestyle at that point. I mean, I was in school and I needed to carry a bigger bag, and you know, I had nowhere to wear it. So it stayed in storage, and several months later, I was going away and I took it out. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take it with me. And I looked inside, I opened the flap, and you know how you have the double stitch CCs? I noticed for the very first time that one of those stitches was popped. And it may have been like that at the beginning, and I didn't think to look at the bag in that regard. So, you know, I was just like, okay. So I took it to my local boutique, and I showed it to them, and they're like, wow, you haven't even used this, like the stickers are still on there. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't used it, and this is popped. And they said, okay, we're gonna send it to Paris for repair. So it was gone for like a good, like, I don't know, more than 6 months, and Paris said they couldn't repair that, and I guess because it was too labor intensive to take out the lining, the red lining, because that's on the red lining, right, and get in there and stitch it again, like it would ruin the bag. So they said, we cannot repair it, we're just gonna give the client a new one. And they did. So they took care of it. I recently actually on my white classic flap, brand new, I was just, you know, looking at it, I was matching it to certain whites, and I noticed, holy crap, there's a stitch that's popped, and or not popped, it was a skipped stitch. So you know how you have stitches that go and then like one stitch was longer? So I was like, that's interesting, right? Like I guess it didn't, like the bottom as you sew, right, it didn't catch the stitch. So, you know, I just took it in, and they fixed it, right? Like they fixed it. I don't know how they fixed it, but they fixed it, right? So, you know, things like that, you know, these are things that you can deal with that I'm willing to, you know, compromise on. I don't really care. But if it comes to, you know, the feel of leather, like I'm picky with that, But then again, I have different preferences. I sometimes, like in lambskin, I prefer like a stiffer lambskin. Some people want like a squishy lambskin. It's all relative. So don't, you know, I think what Jessie said is really is correct in a way that we shouldn't let like some people really hone in on details and get obsessed with perfection, that these things cannot be perfect. They were never perfect. Okay, so we can't expect that. But what you can expect is that you are getting a quality piece that feels quality to you, because it's all relative. It's all about your perception of what you're getting. So it has to be good quality to you, not to anybody else, to you. What you find satisfies you. But in this space, if there is something wrong, like, I mean, I'm going to comment on my thoughts. I'm going to give a review because some people find that valuable, and, you know, they might take that into consideration when making choices for their purchases. So I really liked what Jessie's style, like her video, what she did. And, you know, she mentioned, like, you know, is it like maybe we should stop being so picky? Like maybe we should just enjoy the bag. And she's right. She's right. But, you know, again, you'll enjoy something that you love wholeheartedly, flaws and all, right? So it's up to you what you want to overlook. It's up to you what you want to accept. It's up to you what you want to reject, right? Again, buying the tomatoes. Again, just because you find one squishy tomato doesn't mean all tomatoes are bad. I hope that that all makes sense. Please enjoy your items. Please enjoy the luxury experience. But also don't take crap, right? This is a lot of money, and you know, do expect good quality and do expect good service. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.